Zalari stood still as the Earth shuttle touched down. Her glowing blue eyes watched the dust rise from the dry ground. This planet was so different from Thalara, her home. There, everything was smooth, calm, and organized. But here, Earth felt loud, full of strange smells, fast movement, and unpredictable people. Her body looked human, designed to match Earth's form, but inside, she was completely alien. This mission was important. She was chosen as one of the first researchers from Thalara to visit Earth. Her job was simple: observe humans, understand their ways, and report her findings. Nothing more. At least, that's what she thought at first. When the shuttle doors opened, a man was waiting. He wore a white coat, had kind eyes, and held a small tablet. His name was Dr. Rami Patel, a biologist working with the Earth Council for Interplanetary Relations. He had been trained to help visiting beings like her settle in. "Welcome to Earth, Zalari," he said with a warm smile. "I'm here to help you get comfortable." Zalari nodded but didn't speak. She didn't know what to say. Her translator implant worked perfectly, but the feelings inside her chest were hard to process. Everything was happening too fast. They took a quiet transport car to the research center, where she would live during her stay. The roads were noisy, full of strange vehicles and flashing lights. She kept her hands folded in her lap and stared out the window. At the center, she was shown a private room. It had a bed, a desk, and even a small plant near the window. Everything was designed to make her feel at home, but it didn't. Not yet. Rami explained some basic things. "This button here adjusts the light," he said, pointing to a small panel on the wall. "If anything feels strange or wrong, just tell me, okay?" Zalari nodded again. Still silent. The next day, Rami began teaching her about Earth customs. He brought her simple clothes to wear, showed her how to open doors, how to use human tools, and how to eat food properly. Earth food was very different. It had strong smells, textures, and tastes. Her body could digest it, thanks to special preparation, but it was hard to enjoy. He also tried to teach her something harder: how to behave in human social situations, smiling, shaking hands, making eye contact. For Zalari, this was the most difficult part. On Thalara, people communicated mostly with thoughts and subtle energy shifts. There was no need for loud voices or emotional expressions. But humans were full of feeling. Their emotions flowed like waves, fast, heavy, sometimes confusing. One morning, Rami extended his hand to her. "This is a handshake," he said. "It shows trust." Zalari hesitated. Her body tensed. She slowly reached out, touched his hand, and then quickly pulled back. I'm not ready," she whispered. "That's okay," Rami replied gently. "We'll take it one step at a time." Zalari appreciated his patience, but inside, she felt like she was failing. She was supposed to be advanced, smarter, more adaptable. But she couldn't even handle a handshake without panic. Her body reacted to human touch in a strange way. Her skin would heat up, her mind would race, and her chest would tighten. It wasn't pain, but it was overwhelming. That night, she sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her hands. They looked human, but they weren't. She was made to blend in, to be smooth and perfect in this environment. So why did everything feel wrong? A soft knock came at the door. It was Rami again. He held a small device, something he had built just for her. "This is a neural comfort suit," he said. "It helps with Earth's sensory input. Might make you feel safer." Zalari took it. It was a sleek silver outfit, meant to fit tightly over her body. She took it into her room and tried to put it on. But as she pulled it over her shoulders, it wouldn't go further. It felt tight, restricting, almost like it was squeezing her. Her chest began to hurt, her breathing changed. She stopped. Her hands shook. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. She dropped the suit and called Rami through the door. "It won't fit," she said, her voice loud and broken. "It won't fit unless you make me ready." There was silence. Then, gently, Rami said, "Then we'll find a way, together. We're not in a rush." His words echoed in her mind long after he left. She realized that the suit not fitting wasn't the problem. She wasn't ready, not for Earth, not for this experience, not for him. Her mind and body were resisting something deeper. On Thal Ara, nothing was ever done without preparation. Change was slow, careful, and planned. But here, everything demanded quick adjustment. She had tried to follow their rules, copy their ways, but it wasn't enough. That night, she wrote in her report journal, "Earth is soft but demanding. It is not the planet that makes me uncomfortable. It is myself. I am not ready for this world. But perhaps that's the beginning." She closed her eyes and let the night sounds of Earth fill the room. Somewhere outside, birds were chirping. A soft wind rustled the trees. Slowly, she began to breathe easier. She didn't know how long it would take. She didn't know if she would ever fully understand humans. But she made one small promise to herself. Tomorrow, she would try again. The next morning, Zalari woke up early. The sunlight came through the window and touched her face. It felt warm, not too bright, but still unfamiliar. On Talara, their sun was softer, more blue than yellow. Earth's light felt heavier somehow, like it carried emotions. She sat on the edge of the bed again, looking at the silver comfort suit on the floor. She didn't pick it up. Instead, she took a deep breath and stepped outside her room. Rami was already in the main lab working on a tablet. He looked up and smiled. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning," Zalari replied softly. It was the first time she spoke without being asked. He seemed pleased. "Would you like to join me? I'm preparing some neural maps for you. Helps us understand your body's responses here." She nodded and followed him. The lab had glass walls and shelves filled with strange Earth devices, screens, tools, tiny blinking lights. She had studied many of these things in books, but seeing them up close felt different. Rami handed her a seat and placed a small sensor on her wrist. "We're going to measure your stress levels during small activities," he explained. "Just a few things. No pressure. If anything feels too much, tell me immediately." Zalari appreciated how he spoke. His voice was steady, calm. No sudden movement, no judgment. First, he asked her to hold a warm cup of tea. The heat surprised her. On her planet, food was never held directly. She gripped it carefully, her fingers twitching. The sensor beeped quietly. "Okay," Rami said. "That's enough." Next, he offered her a soft cloth. "This is a towel. Humans use it after bathing. Touch it slowly." She ran her fingers over it. The texture was strange, soft but scratchy at the same time. Her skin flinched and she dropped it. "I don't like it," she said quickly. "That's okay. We'll skip that one," he replied without a frown. Finally, he showed her a small mirror. "This one's optional." She took it slowly. When she looked at herself, she saw someone who looked human. Brown hair, smooth skin, clear eyes. But it wasn't really her. She was a stranger behind a mask. A perfect face that wasn't true inside. "I look ready," she whispered. "But I'm not." Rami didn't say anything right away. He sat beside her and waited. After a moment, she looked at him. "You said humans use touch to show trust. What else do they use?" He smiled. "Many things. Words, time, shared silence. But yes, touch is important, but only if both people are comfortable." "On my planet," she said, "we connect through thought and memory streams. We feel each other's truth without speaking. No one touches unless the bond is complete. Here, I feel like I'm missing something." "You're not missing anything," he said. You're just learning differently." She didn't reply, but a quiet feeling settled inside her. Not comfort, but curiosity. That afternoon, they went outside for the first time. The research center had a small garden. It was full of green plants with tiny insects flying around. The air smelled like soil and leaves. Zalari bent down and touched a flower gently. "It feels alive," she said. "It is," Rami smiled. "Life is everywhere here, even in the smallest places." A bird flew by and landed near them. Zalari gasped. "It's watching me." "Maybe it likes you," Rami joked. She tilted her head. "It's strange. Back home, we control nature with precision. But here, everything moves freely." "That's part of what makes Earth special," Rami said. "Things grow in chaos. It's not always neat, but it's real." She thought about that for a long time. Later in the day, Rami showed her another suit prototype. This one was different. It was looser, more flexible. The material was soft and cool. "We redesigned it based on your scans," he said. "This version doesn't press against your skin as much." She looked at it but didn't touch it. "I don't think the problem was the suit." He waited quietly, she continued. "When I tried to wear it, it felt like I was being forced into something. My body shut down. Not because of the size, because I wasn't ready to change. Not yet." "That's a powerful thing to notice," he said gently. She turned to face him. "I want to understand humans, but I also want humans to understand me. I don't want to pretend to fit. I want to truly adapt. Slowly, safely." "You don't have to rush," he said again. "We can go at your pace." They sat in silence for a while. Then she asked, "What does trust feel like to you?" Rami thought for a moment. "It feels like being seen and still accepted, even if you're not perfect." She stared at him. "That's rare on my planet. Everyone must be perfect before showing themselves." "Not here," he said. "Here, people connect by being real." She looked down at her hands. Slowly, she lifted one and placed it on the table between them. Rami didn't move closer. He simply placed his own hand beside hers, close but not touching. She didn't pull away. It was a small gesture, but it meant something. Later that evening, she returned to her room and stood in front of the mirror again. Her reflection looked the same, but now there was a small difference. A softness in her eyes. She reached for the suit, held it for a moment, then placed it carefully on a chair. "Tomorrow," she whispered. Then she sat down at her desk and wrote in her journal, "I'm beginning to understand. Earth does not ask me to change overnight. It asks me to be honest. I may look ready on the outside, but readiness is not in appearance. It is in the heart." And for the first time since she landed, she allowed herself to rest, not from fear, but from peace. For the next few days, Zalari stayed mostly inside her room. She wasn't hiding, she was thinking. She read Earth books, watched recorded videos of human behavior, and listened to soft music from different countries. Some songs made her feel things she had no names for. Emotions were strange. On her planet, people managed feelings like machines. But here on Earth, feelings came suddenly, and they stayed longer than expected. Sometimes, Rami checked on her. He never pushed, never asked why she was quiet. He would just leave a small note or a warm drink near her door. One note said, "Silence is okay. You're still heard." That sentence stayed with her. But even though she appreciated his kindness, something inside her was changing. It wasn't comfort, it was frustration. Zalari felt like she was stuck between two worlds. She was not fully Thalaran anymore. Earth was changing her, but she was also not human. She didn't belong here either. She didn't fit anywhere. One evening, she decided to test herself. She walked into the lab and picked up the comfort suit again. Her fingers trembled as she touched the fabric. She turned to Rami, who had just entered the room. "I want to try again," she said quietly. He nodded. "Take your time." She went into her room and slowly started putting it on. First her legs, then arms, and finally the torso piece. It still felt tight, but this time, she prepared herself. She told her body to stay calm. She breathed in slowly, thinking peaceful thoughts. But halfway through, her chest tightened. Her vision blurred. The air around her felt too heavy. She pulled at the suit, trying to remove it. Her hands shook, and her body began to overheat. She stumbled backward and fell to the floor. "I can't," she cried out. "It's too much." The door opened. Rami stepped in, but he didn't rush to help her. He crouched nearby and spoke gently. "You're safe. I'm here." She sat up slowly, still shaking. The suit lay half off her body, like a heavy shell. Her face showed confusion, fear, and shame all mixed together. "I failed again," she whispered. "I thought I was ready. I'm not." "You didn't fail," Rami said. "You faced your fear. That's a brave thing to do." But I couldn't finish. You don't need to finish all at once. Progress is not about speed. It's about honesty. You tried, and that means everything. She looked at him, searching, for disappointment in his eyes, but saw none, only understanding. "I don't understand my own limits," she admitted. "I thought my body could adapt with willpower alone. But it's more than that. It resists change unless I feel completely safe." "That makes sense," Rami said. "Your species evolved with strong protection systems. Earth's way of touching, trusting, opening up, it's all new to you." She nodded. "On Tal Ara, we prepare for bonding over years. Here, people hug within minutes. I don't know how they do it." "Because they've grown up with it," he explained. "It's part of their emotional language, just like your memory streams are part of yours." She leaned against the wall, exhausted. "I feel like I'm breaking into pieces. Every day, something small becomes a big challenge. Even the idea of someone standing too close makes me feel trapped." Rami sat beside her, not touching her, but close enough to show he cared. "I think you're not breaking," he said softly. "You're unfolding." She blinked. "Unfolding?" "Yes. Like a flower that opens one petal at a time. That's not weakness, it's nature." She let those words sit in her mind. The next morning, she wrote in her journal, "I tried again, and I fell again. But this time I learned something. My struggle is not just about the outside world. It's about what's happening inside me. My fear, my defenses, my memories, they're not enemies, they're guards. I must meet them with kindness." Over the following days, she and Rami started a new routine. Instead of trying on suits or doing hard tests, they went for long walks in the garden. Sometimes they sat in silence. Sometimes they spoke about simple things: cloud shapes, bird sounds, earth smells. Slowly, without forcing anything, her body began to relax. One afternoon, while watching the sky turn orange at sunset, she turned to Rami. "I've never felt this peaceful," she said. He smiled. "Because you're not trying to fit anymore. You're just being," she nodded slowly. "But I still want to understand touch, not just physically, but emotionally. Why do humans need it so much?" He thought for a moment. "Because it reminds us we're not alone." Those words felt like a key turning inside her. That night, as she sat at her desk, she remembered something from her early training on Tal Ara. One of her teachers had warned her, "Earth will ask you to feel, not just to learn. Be careful. Feelings are dangerous." But now, sitting under Earth's sky, she wondered if feelings weren't dangerous. They were just powerful. She thought about Rami. He had never touched her without permission, never laughed at her struggles, never asked her to be something she wasn't. Slowly, he had shown her what safety felt like, and maybe, just maybe, she was starting to feel trust. Days passed. Zalari began to see small changes in herself. She wasn't afraid to step outside anymore. The grass felt good beneath her feet, even if it still tickled a little. The wind, once too strong and unfamiliar, now carried comfort. The sun, though brighter than her home star, now warmed her gently instead of hurting her eyes. Rami noticed the changes, too. He no longer needed to explain every small Earth behavior. She had started asking questions before he even thought of answers. One day, while they shared a quiet meal, she asked something he hadn't expected. "How do you know when a connection is real?" He looked up from his plate. "Real?" "Yes. Not for science, not for duty, but for the heart." He paused, thinking carefully. "I think when you stop pretending, when you can be your full self around someone, even if it's messy and they stay." She thought about that for a long time. That evening, Zalari sat in the lab looking at the comfort suit again. This time, she didn't feel fear. Instead, she felt curiosity. She had learned her body didn't respond well to being rushed. So, she didn't force it. She simply placed her fingers on the material. She let them rest there. Her skin didn't heat up. Her breathing didn't change. She was calm. When Rami walked in, he saw her holding the suit. "I'm not putting it on. Yet," she said quickly. "I know," he smiled. "But you're not avoiding it either. That's growth." She nodded. "Do you want to try something different?" he asked. "Like what?" "Not the full suit. Just a small part. Maybe the arm section. It's softer now. We adjusted the fabric." HFY agreed. He handed her the piece, and she sat down. Slowly, gently, she slipped her right arm through. The material touched her skin. It was cool and smooth, not tight, not painful. She waited for the panic. But it didn't come. Her chest stayed calm. Her thoughts didn't race. She looked at Rami with wide eyes. "I think it's working," she whispered. He smiled again. "That's because we waited. You made yourself ready." She blinked. "Is that what it means? Readiness isn't about being strong. It's about being honest with where you are?" He nodded. "Exactly." She flexed her fingers inside the suit's sleeve. It moved with her. It didn't fight her. For the first time, her body and the tool felt like one. After a few minutes, she took it off and placed it on the table. "I want to try more tomorrow," she said. "Whenever you're ready," he answered. That night, she stood by her window, watching the stars. Earth's sky was different. The constellations were unfamiliar, but the stars were still stars. Bright, quiet, constant, just like home. She thought about Thalara, about how her people trained for years before missions, about how she had been taught that emotion was something to manage, not explore. But now she was learning that emotions weren't weakness. They were part of growing. In her journal, she wrote, "I wore the suit today. Just one piece. My body didn't shut down. I didn't panic. Maybe it's not about changing myself to fit something. Maybe it's about allowing something to fit me. Slowly. With care. With trust." The next morning, Rami brought her something new. It was a small machine. A scanner designed just for her species. It read neural waves and emotional feedback through light touch. "We made this together. Remember," he said, "it adjusts based on your comfort level. I thought we could try it now." She looked at the scanner. Then she looked at him. "Will it touch me?" "Only lightly. Just your hand." She held out her hand, unsure. "You do it first." Placed his hand on the scanner. It beeped once and showed a soft green light. "See? Easy." She took a deep breath and slowly put her hand on it. The scanner beeped again, but softly. The light turned blue. her energy color. "It doesn't hurt," she said, surprised. "It's responding to your calm state," Rami said. "If you were anxious, it would flash yellow. If overwhelmed, red. But blue means peaceful." She stared at the light. "I never thought I could feel peaceful here. But you are," he said, "because you gave yourself time." Later that day, they went for another walk. This time, they didn't talk much. They didn't need to. The silence between them was no longer awkward. It felt full, like a quiet understanding had settled between them. When they returned to the center, Rami offered his hand. Not as a test, not as a step, just as a gesture. She looked at it. Slowly, she reached out and touched his hand. Their fingers didn't lock. Their palms didn't press. But their skin touched, softly. Her body didn't pull away. She didn't panic. Her heart beat slowly, steadily. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel the connection, not fear it, not control it. Just feel it. She looked into Rami's eyes. "I'm not pretending." "I know," he said gently. And in that moment, something shifted inside her. A wall she had built years ago, back during training during her early life, began to crumble. She wasn't just learning about humans anymore. She was becoming someone new. That night, she wrote the longest entry in her journal yet. "I used to think I had to prepare my body to fit into this world. But now I see. What I really needed was to prepare my heart. I let someone touch my hand today, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I felt safe. I felt ready. And most of all, I felt like myself." She looked at the stars again before closing her eyes. For the first time, Earth didn't feel like a mission. It felt like a beginning. The message came through the center's main communication system. Zalari stood in the hallway, reading the words on the glowing screen. Her people had sent a recall signal. The research period was almost over. Her vessel was returning in 3 days to take her home. She stared at the message for a long time. 3 days. That used to be what she wanted. To finish the mission. To go back to her quiet, organized world. To report everything and move on. But now, the thought of leaving Earth didn't bring relief. It brought a strange weight to her chest. She walked to the garden where Rami was checking the soil near the plants. When he saw her face, he stood up immediately. "They've sent for you, haven't they?" She nodded slowly. "They'll arrive soon." Rami didn't say anything. He looked at her carefully, as if trying to read what she wasn't saying. "I don't know if I want to go," she admitted. "I thought I would be happy when this moment came, but I'm not sure anymore." "You don't have to decide right now," he said gently. "There's still time." That night, Zalari sat at her desk with the comfort suit folded beside her. She had worn it fully the day before, without shaking, without stress. She had even walked outside in it. It had fit her perfectly, not because the suit changed, but because she had. She opened her journal and began to write. "I came here to observe, not to feel. I came as a visitor. But now, I am something else. I have learned about trust, about fear, about patience. And I have learned something my people never taught me. Connection grows only when you let it." The next day, she began preparing her report for her planet. She was expected to send a complete summary of her mission, biological data, cultural observations, emotional logs. But as she looked at the blank page on the screen, she paused. She didn't want to write about experiments. She didn't want to write about numbers. She wanted to write about Rami, about how he never rushed her, about the first time she touched a flower, about how her own heartbeat had once frightened her, but now gave her comfort. She titled her report, "Human Connection." "It won't fit unless you make me ready." It was more than just a title. It was the truth of her journey. She wrote about the comfort suit, how at first it felt like a cage, how she blamed it for her discomfort. But in time, she saw the real problem was inside her defenses, her fears, her own misunderstanding of what readiness meant. She wrote about learning to trust, slowly, gently, through shared time, not pressure. She wrote about standing in the garden, touching Rami's hand, and how that simple moment told her more about Earth than any machine or book ever could. When she finished, she sent the report. It was longer than required, more emotional than expected, but it was honest. It was hers. On the final evening before the ship's arrival, Rami invited her to a small gathering with the center's staff. They had all seen her change, from a silent, stiff outsider to someone who now smiled gently and asked thoughtful questions. The gathering was simple: some soft music, Earth-style snacks, and warm lighting. She wore a soft, human-style outfit, not the suit, not the uniform. Just something light, simple, and comfortable. Something she chose. Rami stood beside her, handing her a small box. She looked at it curiously. "It's a parting gift," he said. "Open it later." She held it close but didn't open it right away. As the evening went on, she looked around the room. People were laughing, talking, moving freely. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was watching them from behind a wall. She felt like she was part of the picture. When the night ended, she stepped outside alone. The sky was dark. The stars were clear. Somewhere up there, her ship was approaching. But her heart wasn't rushing toward it. She sat on a stone bench and opened Rami's gift. Inside was a small glass sculpture. It showed two hands, one slightly open, the other gently reaching out. Not gripping, not forcing, just reaching. Underneath it was a note. "For what we shared in silence. You made me ready too." She smiled. The next morning, the ship landed. Her people greeted her formally. They asked for updates, expected a report review, and prepared her quarters for return travel. But Zalari stood still. "I'm not going with you," she said. They paused. "You are staying?" "Yes," she replied calmly. "Earth is not finished teaching me yet. I still have much to learn. And I want to continue learning with the people who made space for me." The commander didn't understand. "But your mission is complete." "No," she said. "My mission just began. I was sent to understand humans, but to understand them, I must become more than a visitor." And with that, she turned and walked back toward the research center. Rami was waiting at the door. She looked at him and smiled. I stayed. He nodded. "I know." She didn't need to say more. Later, she wrote the final lines in her journal. "I came to Earth thinking I would stay for a few days, then return home unchanged. But Earth is not a place you visit. It is a place that changes you. Here I learned that readiness is not something you wear. It is something you grow. I was afraid. I resisted. But then, someone reached out to me, not with force, but with patience. And because of that, I became ready." She closed the journal and placed it beside the sculpture. Then she stepped outside into the sunlight. No longer a stranger, no longer afraid. She was ready, finally and truly ready to belong.